move to California was a big step, but you gotta be ready for change. I was ready because I knew that we had done all that we could do in Indiana, and it's time to go to the next level.
Well, we also stayed with Donna Ross, had full run of the house. I mean, we used to do crazy stuff with pillow fights and all kind of stuff, and swimming in her pool, and we had a great time. You know, we came out to LA, and my mom stayed back with the other kids, with Randy and LaToya and Janet. Janet was just a young little tyke, so at the time, and Janet. My mom, you know, didn't want to split the family up, but she came out a couple of months later and then joined everyone.
Because ever since I was a little girl, I dreamed of moving to California. Took 9 children, and about 18 years later, but I finally made it.
While the rest of the family was settling into their new home, Berry Gordy was busy preparing the Jackson 5 for their debut as Motown's newest and youngest stars. Berry Gordy's next move was to have Diana Ross help the Jackson 5 get the exposure they needed, beginning with their national TV debut on the Hollywood Palace.
Now, you said young, been in show business all his life, and lights up the stage. Now, you want to tell me who's young, who's been in show business all his life, and lights up the stage except me and Ed Sullivan?
Well, there's one other.
Who?
Michael Jackson in the Jackson 5.
Now we'd like to do our very first release on Motown. It's on sale everywhere. Just let me tell you now. When I had you to myself, I didn't want you around. Those pretty faces always make you stand out in a crowd. But someone picked you from the bunch when that was all it took. Now it's much too late for me to take a second look. Oh, baby, give me one more chance. Always gotta love. Won't you please let me back to your heart?
Just the first notes of, you know, a piano tinkle of I Want You Back. I'm sub 10 years old, but still, it just, you know, it gave me chills even then the same way it does today.
Heard this thing on the radio and actually thought that this was an adult group. I didn't know that Michael was a kid. I thought this was a grown man singing in falsetto. And of course, just fell in love with the record.
Oh, baby, give me one more chance.
The Jackson 5's first single, I Want You Back, rocketed to the top of the pop charts. Their second hit single, ABC, knocked the Beatles out of the #1 spot.
ABC, what better song for a bunch of kids to sing than basically ABC, which was taking soul and then turning into something for grade school kids.
Their third hit single, Love You Say, was followed by an unprecedented fourth hit, I'll Be There.
I reach out my hand to you. I'll have faith in all you do. Just call my name and I'll be there.
No other band in the history of pop music had achieved such a rapid and sustained level of success.
If we had played the Jackson 5's record as many times as it was requested, there are a lot of other records that wouldn't have gotten played at all.
The next thing we're gonna do was one of the songs, one of our family things, so I hope you enjoy it.
When the Jackson 5 came along, they were something I could relate to totally. I liked the fact that they were musicians, but I also dug the fact that they were black. And they were like me, they were my age. I knew I was never gonna be a Beatle, but there was a chance that I could be Jermaine Jackson.
For the joy!
For the joy!
For the joy!
You have given us.
The Jackson 5 made a lasting impact on a whole new generation. Many devoted fans still remember the exact date and place where they first saw the brothers perform.
July 17th, 1971 is the first time I saw the Jackson 5 at Cole Fieldhouse, right outside of Washington, D.C. You know, the lights went down and people from 4 to 40 years old were screaming. They had on, you know, as many colors as there are under the sun. I mean, back then it was with as many colors as you can and with as big flared trousers as you can. It was the brothers sticking back in piston-locked steps. I mean, it was almost military precise timing on the dancing, while Michael just glided across the stage with a microphone almost as big as he was.
The brothers soon discovered they had attracted fans from every corner of the globe.
First time to London, and I think we were going there to do a performance for the Queen.
And the captain came over to my father some hours before we came in and said there's a lot of people at the airport. And when we got there, we actually got mobbed.
They had this Rolls-Royce limousine, and they practically almost turned that car over.
Tito was stuck outside on top of the car because they was trying to get in. Michael had this scarf around his neck, and he said they were pulling it this way, pulling it that way, choking it. I had this jewelry, pulled that off my chest, and my chest was bleeding.
It was crazy. It was actually crazy, and the fans don't realize you can really seriously get hurt.
It was just from excitement of hearing. It's our first time over in London, and it was just great.
But while Jermaine and his brothers were being chased by fans in Europe, back in Los Angeles, Katherine Jackson was feeling the pain of their absence.
Our house was always full of laughter and children running around and playing, and when they went away on tour, it just left Randy and Janet and LaToya and myself, and it felt very empty. I missed them a lot, and sometimes they were gone for 2 or 3 weeks, and we had a hard time being here by ourselves.
We used to go on tour, and sometimes I used to miss home, and you do it so much. It's a part of you. It's in your blood. It's almost as if you live two lives.
How you doing, Marlon?
There's that life that you live that's on stage. And then there's your personal life and your life off stage.
Motown's image making and the brothers' amazing talent. The Jackson 5's catchy melodies and wholesome appeal remain popular to this day.
It was really literally the first sort of kids crossover act and laid the ground for people as recent as Hanson. It was enormously influential and I think is probably as underrated a pop phenomenon as anything I can think of.
The Jacksons' dreams had become a reality. Success was theirs. But now that they were on top of the world, they had no way of knowing that the journey had only just begun. When Famous Families returns, the Jacksons find success has a price.
The moment we got with Motown, it never stopped. It never stopped. But once you grow up with that, that's the only life you know.
Find out how Michael and his brothers coped with the pressures of superstardom. Next, the Jackson 5's early fame and success appeared as effortless as their perfect harmonies and flashy dance steps. In reality, both were the result of relentless hard work.
Brothers out there having fun. We were making people happy at the same time. I guess as we got older, then it started to realize that this is a job.
The brothers were constantly being pushed to reach higher creative limits, and that involves a lot of rehearsal. I would say that it affected the family in the sense that you couldn't always be a family. The family sort of became a mechanism. This was a show business vehicle.
Let's work on the It's Your Thing into There Was a Time to see how that fits together.
It seems like the moment we got with Motown, it never stopped. It never stopped, on and on, every day. But once you grow up with that, that's the only life you know.
I think it was much more grueling then. And there was no MTV to put a video on and say, here I am. The only way that people could see you was 10,000 people a night, 20,000 people a night, going around and actually playing in these places. So the road was a totally different story then.
Typical day on the road for the Jackson 5 was coming into a hotel, making sure our rooms are connected so we can have all our pillow fights and run from room to room and find out what's on the menu for our room service.
Okay, that's enough.
Actually, your day was planned out for you. You would wake up and have breakfast, and by 7 o'clock, you're already out the door. Whether it's doing a TV show or rehearsing or doing a concert. And then you have your schoolwork, because we traveled with a tutor, and you would have to do your schoolwork, of course.
Tell me something about Andrew Jackson. Who was he?
He was our seventh president.
I forgot what year was he born in?
17 something. I've forgotten too.
If you wasn't up on your school grades, you couldn't become an entertainer.
A tutor on the road is really fun.
What happened to the book with the seals on it?
She made sure we got our work done, but I remember one time I was reading a book upside down, and she noticed it, but I had it upside down because I really wasn't reading it, but I was acting like I was reading it.
The boys' normal tendency to slack off was counterbalanced by their father's no-nonsense attitude toward discipline.
The way I disciplined them in the state of Indiana, it worked, and I figured that it would work here in California. My boys is drug-free. They never was in no gangs, and they were good entertainers as well.
Now, my dad takes a very tough route out there, but my father was so tough on us, and tough in a way. He wanted us to be what we are, and he had a vision for us, so I think he's done a wonderful job.
But while Joe Jackson was responsible for keeping his sons on the straight and narrow, Catherine focused on their more personal and spiritual needs.
She was sensitive to our needs, sensitive to our feelings. Is it too much? Is it too much too soon? In raising us, she was more focused on religion, and trying to keep God in our lives and some type of spiritual belief in our lives.
We knew we had a great launching pad, so whatever was going to happen, coming to Hollywood or coming to wherever, we know we had that togetherness in Indiana, so it was going to work anywhere.
My parents trying to give us a normal family life at the time, no, that wasn't possible. But it was crazy those days. I wish I could go out more and do some of the things at the time, but at the same time, I didn't. So I didn't miss it because I didn't know what I was missing at the time.
All in all, I think the family did very well as far as handling the public situation, and it wasn't nice. It wasn't pretty, as we say.
They were constantly in the limo together, on the plane together, on the bus together, on stage together. When these tours end, these guys scatter in different directions. So I think that accounted for a lot of Michael's loneliness. He had no one else but the people that he worked with, and they happened to be his brothers. He didn't have any time to really cultivate any personal relationships outside of the profession.
I mean, Michael was, what, 18 before he'd ever been to a ball game? I mean, publicly. I mean, just think about that. And for some reason, I always had a soft, kind of sad spot in my heart for Michael, because he was such a genius with his little talent. But because of his growth and his popularity and those kind of things, just never got a chance to experience a lot of things. I remember we were doing a show, and I happened to see this little figure over in the corner. And I just said, Michael, I said, is that you? He said, yes, ma'am. I said, why are you sitting down there all by yourself? Oh, just thinking, And even then, he was a little boy then. And even then, he was sort of an introvert.